He stays quiet, releasing his weapon, looking ready to attack. The girl from before also arrives, after hearing the commotion, and teleports to where Kokomi and his bodyguard is. Unexpectedly, the guard tells her to back off, fearing that her and the Oni are actually on the same team, and that she's pretending to be on their side, to easily eliminate them both. She tells him that she's from the Tenryou Commission, but he doesn't believe it, remembering Her Excellency's past teachings. At the heat of the moment, she shows him her ID, to prove she's really from the Commission, which Kokomi also saw. The ID also showed Sarah's name, and her flawless plan had worked. Itto starts stomping, and charges at them, ready to strike with all of his might. Sarah swiftly shoots her arrow, that Itto barely dodges, but the move makes him lose his balance, and he ends up falling in the dock. The giant claymore he was holding ended up hitting his head, making him unconscious, while still in the water, and he ended up drowning. They try to save him, but it was too late. While on the boat, the priestess analyzes what happened. She had written for Itto to attack them at 4 p.m. when her boat would arrive, then later be eliminated by drowning. She also knew Sarah had a shift at 4 in Rito, so she specifically chose that time. When Sarah arrived to protect them, she whispered to his guard that she might also be an enemy. Trusting Her Excellency, and not knowing much outside of Watatsumi, he believed her, and started the accusation. This would result in Sarah showing her ID. Itto then drowned, as a result of her death note. When Orobashi arrived home, she finally wrote down Sarah's name, but not before manipulating her to say something. Meanwhile in the Tenryou Commission headquarters, Sarah starts trembling, and collapses to the ground. Heizou holds her tight, screaming for help, but knows it's too late. Her last words to him are, "Don't trust the Shogun, she betrayed us," and then she gets eliminated. Heizou holds her, as she closes her eyes. Later, Shinobu arrives at his office, to report what happened to Itto. Both of the cases seem very weird for the detective, Itto attacking someone with no reason, and Sarah betraying the Shogun during her last moments, very out of character. Knowing them, they would absolutely never do something like that, and he ends up interrogating some people around the crime scene. He also concludes that this murderer can manipulate people's actions before their eventual demise. Hence, that's why Itto, Sarah, Ayato, and others did things out of character, like blaming the Raiden Shogun before their elimination. With this conclusion, he managed to stop the people from turning their backs to the Electro Archon, calming things down, although the murderer that they called Kira is still loose. Furthermore, most of the Tenryou officers have decided to abandon the mission, fearing they would be targeted next, leaving Heizou alone. Kazuha and Shinobu then decided to join his investigation team though, for revenge. Orobashi gets slightly annoyed by her plan being ruined, but is prepared for this, and goes through with plan B. She decides to join Heizou's investigation team, together with her general, to gain their trust, and avoid being caught, although she's fully aware it can easily backfire. While at the team, she will also try to figure out all of their names, specifically the main detective. With them gone, no one else can deduce she did the eliminations, and can now blame the Electro Archon. She would then finally reveal about her godhood, and fulfill her god's promise. She goes to the detective, requesting to assist in their investigation, for the same reason Kazuha and Shinobu joined. He questions her ulterior motive, but still considers her application. In her application letter, he noticed that she only refers to herself as Orobashi, but doesn't question why. While the team is interviewing her, she gives the hypothesis that the murderer can control a person's actions before their demise, the same conclusion that the team had. They are impressed by her deductive skills, and accepts for her to join them, somewhat gaining their trust. The dog general also joined the group, after passing a test, happy to help them in any way. Months have passed since the group has been formed, and in Orobashi's side of things, it has been going very well. She figured out their names, Cookie Shinobu, Kaidahara Kazuha, and Goro, only now missing the detective. She also managed to gain their trust, especially Goro, although she's still unsure if the Tenryou detective feels the same way, despite saying he trusts her. She is about to initiate her final plan that she hopes would reveal the man's name and finally put an end to her facade. They receive a report from an anonymous person that they have been seeing some suspicious activity around the EA publishing house. They take the report seriously, and the group soon arrive in the house, investigating if anything is out of the ordinary. Shinobu finds the editor's room that needs the electro element for it to open, urging the others to go check it out. She uses her vision to unlock the door, the priestess keeping both her hands behind her back. A man from outside then starts screaming, alerting the others, and the team quickly goes downstairs to see what happened. They see that the man had a heart attack, like expected. Perhaps it was done by Kira. Goro noticed that Her Excellency was nowhere, then sees her fumbling when walking down the stairs, and asks what's wrong. She says that she accidentally tripped while running, looking very embarrassed about it. Kazuha then heads over to the editor's room, nothing seeming suspicious, until he opens one of the drawers and finds something very creepy. He reveals to the others he found a book named The Death Note that has all of Inazuma's eliminations written on it. Heizou reads the rules of the book, thinking this is how Kira is eliminating all of these people, and decides to test it to see if it's actually real. He writes the name of a dangerous criminal, and the book works, soon getting notified that the man had a heart attack. They go to the Grand Narukami Shrine, where Miko was at, and they arrest her, thinking she was Kira. The book was found in her editorial office that only she could have entered, making her be the #1 suspect. Back at their hideout, Miko claims that she's innocent, and if it really was her, the detective and their entire team would be gone by now. She would have just written their names in the Death Note, instead of keeping them alive for so long, knowing he's very intelligent. The detective responds by speculating that Miko might have forgotten their names, because she lost most of her memories due to corrosion. She laughs, mentioning on how she has exceptional memory, so there's absolutely no way she would forget. The priestess then says that to prove she's telling the truth, she should say the detective's name, to show she does remember. The shrine maiden is about to, but gets interrupted by the dark-haired man, saying to just reveal the first letter, the amount of letters in his second name, and the total amount of vowels. She says that the first letter is S, his last name contains 6 letters, and his full name has a total of 8 vowels. This is enough for Miko to be removed of some suspicion, as it wouldn't make sense to why their names are not written, despite her knowing them, although she isn't fully cleared yet. Later that afternoon, Shinobu notices that the last rule of the Death Note states that if you write a person's name, then cross it out, they will be immune to the book's effects forever. The detective decides to test it, together with the group, writing someone's name, crossing it out, and then write the name again. It works, as the person didn't die, so using this method, they could be immune to the Death Note, allowing them to no longer be fearful of being eliminated by Kira. After 3 days, the detective volunteers to write his name first, while others watch. He enters a room, where only the Death Note and a mirror can be found inside. After he finishes writing his name, he signals that he's done. Suddenly, Kokomi runs to the room, and locks the door, managing to take a peek of what he wrote. The detective turns around, and closes the book, but she reveals it's too late, as she now knows, bringing out another Death Note from her pocket. Her plan is now revealed. She made a replica of the Death Note, but it actually contains no power. She copied all her writings, and added a fake rule on the replica, that if you cross out a person's name, they will be forever immune to its effects. She then reported anonymously that there was suspicious activity around the publishing house, making them go investigate it. When Shinobu opened Miko's room, she wrote in the real Death Note for a man outside to be eliminated, distracting them, giving her enough time to put the replica inside her desk. She had lied about accidentally tripping when Goro noticed her absence. All that was left to do was wait for someone to find the book. When the detective tested it, she secretly wrote the person's name in the real Death Note, making the replica seem like the real one. This plan could lead to her victory in 2 ways. First option is by making Miko announce the detective's name to prove she's innocent, or the second option, he would write his own name Thinking the crossing out rule is true, and thanks to Miko's hints from the interrogation, she can be sure it's his actual name. Back to the present, the second option happened. He randomly brings out a mirror and threatens to write her name in the death note. She says that the book he is holding is just a replica, and the one she is holding is the real one, smiling as she writes his name. The detective tells her she is bluffing and writes down the priestess's name, both staring intensely. Loud knocking can be heard outside the room. 40 seconds felt like an eternity, as a huge grin is evident in both of their faces. As the clock finally stops ticking, she says that she has won, but then suddenly, the priestess falls to the ground, while Heizou is standing strong. He shows that he actually didn't write anything, and his plan is now revealed. He had always knew that it was Kokomi, but just lacked the evidence. He knew it was her, by how she acted, almost like she had forgotten them, although her performance was good. He knew the death note they found was fake, because when he says the name of the criminal that he wrote down, he actually lied, and didn't write anything at all. The criminal still ended up dying, meaning Kira, with the real death note, is among them. Coincidentally, Kokomi was absent in the room, and was outside of their room listening, but out of sight. This isn't enough proof to convince people though. Seeing an opportunity to defeat her, he took the risk, and made Miko say those specific things. He pretended to fall into her trap, up until writing his name. The name he wrote was false, and he actually wrote down, Sanganomi ya Kokomi, knowing that she had forgot her mortal name. She didn't suspect anything, as the name matched Miko's description, tricking her to write her own name in the death note. Heizou smiles as he walks outside the room, announcing that they had won. In her last moments, Kokomi begs Orobashi to fully control her and receive all of its blood, so she can now be immune by the death note before it's too late. The serpent tells her not to worry, because her blood will be born again, and when she reaches the appropriate age, it will be waiting at the statue for their 87th attempt. The end. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe and like if you ended up enjoying this video, as I put a lot of effort into it. It's good to be back. Bye.